I was like trying not to cry. And then, man, when promises are made and promises are kept, lives are changed forever. In my head, like I did one of those like, yes, nailed it. I did it. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Certified Oversharer. I'm your host, Samantha Busch, and today I'm going to overshare about my trip to the White House. I cannot believe I'm actually saying this. It was such an honor to be there. It was such a monumental day. I mean, literally, for 13 years, we have been in the trenches of the infertility battle, right? It took us almost a decade to have our family. When we started going through this, talking about IVF had such a stigma around it, and to watch it go from kind of this like whispered, hushed conversation, like barely telling anybody we are going through IVF, to over the years, like sharing our experience, starting the Bundle of Joy Fund, going through all the heartache that we did advocating for infertility, and then to get to be at the actual White House when President Trump and the administration announced that they are going to do so much for so many Americans to be able to have access to fertility treatments. We're going to get into it, whether it's lowering the cost, helping insurance to offer these benefits, or literally, I got to talk to RFK, and he was talking about how we need to figure out the root cause, like why is infertility skyrocketing? So I'm just going to start at the beginning because it happened so fast. It was such a whirlwind. I don't know if you can tell that my voice is a little bit raspy here because it has just been nonstop, and literally, I just feel so blessed, and it's still like a pinch me moment. And that's why I wanted to jump on the pod, just to get to be a voice for the 1 in 6 couples battling infertility. So let's get into it. I literally had friends and family that were like, why didn't you text me? Why didn't you tell me? We didn't know this was going to happen. And it's because it all came together so quickly. So this all started on Tuesday. I was at the White House on Thursday. This started Tuesday. The week before, we had gotten a call because, well, let me back up. So first of all, our foundation director, Jessica, and myself, back, I think it was early spring, got to go to the White House, and we got to meet with the people that were helping to put the recommendations together for the president on the executive order as it had to deal with infertility access care treatment. So we got to go do that, and we really just spoke on behalf of the patients. Like when we went out there, I said, okay, I've been in this space. I've connected with thousands of other people, whether it was through meet and greets, through the Bundle of Joy Fund, like you name it. And I've got to hear their stories and truly listen to what they're facing, along with being a patient myself. And so I just really talked about the high cost and how it's around $20,000, and that's just for a chance to have a baby. That's no guarantee. And so we were just trying to tell them that a lot of the couples that we personally fund through the Bundle of Joy Fund, they are hardworking Americans. They are school teachers, police officers, firefighters, military, people that dedicate their lives to their community. But then in turn, when they want to have their own families, the cost of treatment is just completely out of reach. We've had couples through the Bundle of Joy Fund that, they've worked 2-3 jobs each. They've saved, and they're like, this is going to take years. And for a lot of people, when they, meet their partner later in life, they're like, we don't have that time. And so we just really tried to be a voice for all of those going through infertility and show the administration this is what's happening in our country, and it's heartbreaking. The Bundle of Joy Fund recently picked up a clinic, and we are near a military base, and that's where we found out that it's so upsetting. Our military, who literally puts their life on the line to defend our country, to protect our families, they don't even have coverage. So the only way that they have coverage currently, and I'm also trying to figure out, like with this new rollout, how that affects the military, and we'll get to that. But currently what it says is they have to sustain an injury while in service that is directly related to their reproductive organs, essentially. And so that's really hard, right? And that's also really sad that they have to have something catastrophic happen in order for them to have coverage to have their families. And so another thing that I talked about, whether it was for businesses or the military, is having coverage for infertility treatments is also a marketing tool. I mean, you can have women that say, okay, you know what? If I can freeze my eggs, I have a little bit more time to think about where I want my career to go versus when I want to start my family. If you have a husband who's going to be deployed, they can go and they can freeze their embryos, and then it takes a lot of pressure and stress off. So anyways, when we were there in March, that's exactly what we talked about. So fast forward to last week, we received a call from the White House, which is just so cool to say, right? And they said, hey, you know, we're planning an event. It's going to be in the Rose Garden, and you can bring 5 people with you, and it is around women's health. And so that was at first what we were told. And we said, okay, you know, we'll make it happen. And then they called back, I think it was like a day or two later, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, like, that event's off. I'm like, okay, no worries. Sounded really cool. Just keep us posted if anything happens in the future. And so then we get a call, and they said, okay, we need Samantha to the White House on Thursday. And she could either come alone or bring one other person. But most likely when she's at the event, she will need to be by herself. And we're like, what? Okay. Any details? And they're like, you know, if she could just prepare some remarks regarding her story and, you know, their journey with IVF and maybe the Bundle of Joy Fund and, you know, whatever she wants to say, just have some remarks. I'm like, okay. And it was all very vague and very top level. And now I understand why, right? Because I'm just a normal person. They can't give me all that like information. And so then we get a call on Wednesday that says, okay, make sure she has a 2-minute speech. And so I had prepared my speech, and I really had just spoke from the heart and thought, okay, how can I condense almost, 10 plus years into 2 minutes and really do justice for the infertility community? Because that was my biggest thing. It's like I felt like I was representing and being a voice for everyone who's battled IVF, IUIs, miscarriages, whatever it might be. And I was like, I just want to do everybody justice. And then I also really knew that I wanted God to be a huge part of my speech because, and I've told this story before and it still gives me goosebumps, but when Kyle and I were going through it, this was even before we had gone through our first miscarriage or anything. And I just remember everybody was getting pregnant and it just seemed so easy for everybody. And I was laying in bed next to Kyle and I was just like, God, why me? Like, why is this happening to us? Like, I don't understand. We're so young. I was like 26 at the time and we're healthy and I felt like we're good people. Like, why are we going through this? And I felt just clear as day, God talked to me. And I think it's funny. I think when you imagine God talking to you, it's like this big booming voice and like a ray of light, but it wasn't like this. I felt like he was like, girlfriend, calm it down. Like, I've got you. You're going to be fine. And I heard clear as day him just tell me, this is for other people. Like, I'm going to use you in ways that you don't even know. There's a greater purpose behind this. I got you, but this is also for good. So just like chill out for a minute, get it together, and like, we're going to get through this. And I really felt that. And now, not to say that there weren't times that like I still had full-blown breakdowns and everything. But the first time I really saw that come through was obviously with the Bundle of Joy Fund. And in one of the applications that we got our first round, I will never forget, one of the husbands almost word for word wrote in his application like what I had heard that night. And I was like, whoa, full circle. Okay, God, I get it. And then being asked to come to the White House and knowing that it had something to do with the executive order, and this is something that we've been working on, I just was like, wow, okay, like I really want to tell everybody listening, like, this was God's plan. So we get to DC and, well, first let me say too, picking out an outfit for the White House is very stressful. that was crazy. My mom came over and I like had my entire closet torn apart. And I'm like, what does one wear to the White House? Like, obviously it has to be classy and it has to be conservative and I don't want it to be too loud. And so I just remember having like every dress out. And then I had this pantsuit and I just said, okay, white. It's like classic and it's put together and it had these like pretty little pearls on it, which like gave me Chanel vibes. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want to wear to the White House. And so I brought a backup dress because I was like, oh my gosh, like if I spill something on this, I don't have anything to wear. And yeah, I mean, literally this all came together in like 24 hours. So it's like, recurl the wig and pack my makeup and all that stuff. And so, we arrive in DC and the whole time I'm practicing my speech and I'm so nervous. So I have zero problems talking on camera, like with a podcast or a reality show, but public speaking, especially speeches, they are not my forte. And I knew this. And so I was really, really anxious. So much so I'm sitting there getting ready and I stop and I pick up my paper and I'm like, okay, Jessica, like, let me run through this one more time. And I really had certain words that I wanted to, really just hit home with and all these things. And so I start the first two sentences of my speech to Jessica and I'm like talking and I'm like, my son Brexton's 10, my daughter Lennox is 6. And I'm like, oh, she's not 6. She's 3. Why did I say she's 6? If I don't even know my own daughter's age right now, there's no way I'm going to make it through the speech. So now I am telling you, like, my armpits are just sweating. I'm freaking out. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? First of all, I don't even know who I'm going to give this speech to, but if I can't be in a room with just myself and Jessica and know my daughter's age, which in retrospect, it's because the next sentence said we went through 6 rounds of IVF, but still, I was then in full-blown panic mode. Let's be honest, some of my best stories start with, so I had a drink, and spiral from there, which is exactly why Big Rack Spirits feels like the unofficial sponsor of every unfiltered moment on this podcast. Whether it's the East Coast Cooler, Trailblazing Tangerine, or Rosie's Pink Lemonade, they make flavored vodka that goes down easier than your latest situationship. It's all natural, super smooth, and honestly, dangerous in the best way. No fake flavors, no mixers needed. Just pour, sip, and overshare. And maybe cry, obnoxiously laugh, definitely regret saying it all out loud. But hey, at least it was entertaining. Oh, and they're not just out here making delicious chaos in a bottle. Big Rack gives back too. Military charities, breast cancer foundations, real impact with every pour. So if you're gonna tell on yourself, you might as well do it with a drink that's worth it. Must be 21 or older, please drink responsibly. So I finished getting ready and now seeing like what a huge moment it was, I probably should have like got hair or makeup or something, but we were literally in an office building. We have a friend who he's on our board. He has an office out there. So I'm like in the office public bathroom with like my wig on a stand and getting my makeup on. And I don't know. I don't think I really could wrap my head around what a huge thing this was going to be. But yeah, so I got all ready. Jessica and I get in the car. And so when you're going into the White House, there's like 2 security points. And so we had known this from when we went the first time. So we go through the first part and you give them your ID and you get a badge. And that's when it hit me that it was so real because my badge said West Wing on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing this. So then we go to get to the second security point and there's a huge line, but there's these people and they had like all this equipment. And so anyways, we were like stuck there for 25 minutes. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go. Like we got there an hour and 15 minutes early just to be safe, which thank gosh we did. But anyways, we got through, but like any extra minute, you're just panicking. I literally wanted to be like, excuse me, I'm sorry, can you move to the side? I have to get in. So we get there and a gentleman named Jack, that's who we were speaking with, he was part of the Department of Public liaison. I think that's how we say it. I was in the office. And so Jessica and I get there, and they had just signed everything to put all these policies into effect. And so since they did that, he was like, okay, here's, the one pager on everything. And so Jessica and I are just like, oh my gosh, like, let's see what it says. And it was just mind blowing, because I see now why it took so long for them to get the executive order done. They had told us back in the beginning that it was hopefully going to be in May, but there was so many pieces to it. As I had mentioned, they were with EMD Serono, they were lowering the price of the IVF medications. He was telling us how, when employers offer vision and dental, like they want this to be like vision, dental, and IVF. They want to just help so many Americans. And so seeing all that, and then seeing that they're also going to start digging into the root causes. And it was really cool. I'll get into it, that RFK was talking about it, how, 16-year-old boys, essentially, their testosterone levels are like that of 56-year-old men, different things like that. When Kyle and I started going through infertility treatments, it was 1 in 8 couples. In 10 years, it's 1 in 6. I've heard studies say it's closer to 1 in 5. So anyways, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place because this was just such an exciting day. But Jessica and I are reading through what it's actually going to be, and our eyes are just lighting up. We're so excited, so proud. Just my mind is like, oh my gosh, so many Americans are going to have access to treatments. I am so proud and excited. So then Jessica's like, so now that we're like, 40 minutes out, what's the game plan today? What's going on? And he's like, okay, well, now I can tell you guys everything. So he said there is going to be 5 speakers in the Oval Office. Yes. Yep. In the Oval Office with the president. And I'm just sitting here like my heart is every word he's saying, like it's racing faster and faster. So he's like, yeah, you're going to speak with Senator Katie Britt, which I'll get into because I've talked to her before and absolutely love her. They said that there was also going to be Dr. Oz, RFK was going to be in attendance, a woman named Libby, who she was representing EMD Serono, Dr. Heidi, who is a huge part of the whole EO, and just a number of people there. And so he goes, yeah, and you're going to close it out and then we'll throw it back to the president. I'm sorry. What? And I just was then like, okay, wow, this is a huge deal. And I'm just practicing my speech and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah. And I literally had 5 minutes. I mean, I had been practicing my speech, but like 5 minutes to kind of wrap my head around what the executive order said, what was about to take place. And then he was like, and here we go. And I was like, and here we go. Okay. Oh, I do need to also say at one point, I like brought out my paper and he was like, if you could just speak from the heart. And I was like, sir, you cannot take my paper. Like I need my paper. So thank gosh, there was a podium there. And even like Dr. Oz, everybody had a paper. So then I felt much better because I was like, oh no. So we go into this holding room as we're waiting on the president. And so I walk in and I felt so much more at ease. Congressman Richard Hudson and his wife Renee are there. So we've known them for a number of years. They're out of North Carolina. He's been to a number of NASCAR races and Richard Childress events. And so I was like, okay. And him and his wife had gone through infertility as well. And so Renee and I had connected on that years upon years ago. So instantly it was like, okay, familiar face in the room. I feel a lot better. And they were like, you're going to be great. Like, it's going to be good. And I'm still trying to like take in what a huge honor. I mean, I knew it was a huge honor, but then standing in that room, I was like, all I kept thinking is like, how am I here? This is so cool. And so then I see Senator Katie Britt, and you guys, I just adore her. So she took time. It was last year when Jessica and I realized that the military didn't have coverage, as I mentioned, when we picked up that clinic. And I was like, you know what, maybe we could at least work on the state of North Carolina. And I knew that she had been extremely instrumental in helping to overturn the whole Alabama debacle with the embryos and everything. And so I was like, you know what, she's my girl. She'll get this. And the fact that she took time out of her crazy busy schedule last year to hop on a Zoom and talk to me and kind of give me some guidance of things that I should try, and people I should try to get a meeting in front of and to do this was so cool. And so to see her in that room and knowing, and she's a mother and she understands this and she's very passionate about it. And so when I saw that she was going to be speaking in there, I was like, wow. And I don't know, there's something about Senator Katie Britt, like she's accomplished so much and she's such like a boss, but she is so humble. And, she was like giving me a pep talk. She's like, you're going to be great. And like, I'm so proud of you for being here and all these things, and just really made me feel like so welcome. And I don't know, I would love to have her on the podcast because she's just an extraordinary woman. And so she was there and I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then I looked to my left and sitting there working, and he's like writing down extra notes. It's Dr. Oz. And like, I watched Dr. Oz's shows so much growing up, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And so, I'm trying not to be Fanny because like everybody else in there is somebody, right? Like the head of the Department of Labor is there, and just all sorts of really cool, huge people in the administration. And then RFK walks in and I'm like, okay, don't fangirl. Okay, I'm going to fangirl. And I was like, talking to Renee at the time, and I was like, do you think it'd be okay to approach him? Like, I don't want to be, I don't know what's like allowed in these situations. And she's like, no, he's so kind, so nice. I was like, I just want to tell him, as a, homeschool mom, as a mom that people have kind of rolled their eyes at, like, oh, it's just this, your kids are fine, or I can't believe you don't let them eat that, or, oh, you're that mom that doesn't let their kids do that. And, I think there's a lot of us that are those moms now that RFK has made it okay to be those moms. And we're exposing, that there are very real chemicals and dyes and things added to our foods that have real effect on our kids' health and behaviors. And so I just walked up to him and I said, hello, sir. As a crunchy granola homeschool mom, I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's for my children, it's for their children. I am just ecstatic to see that, you guys are so passionate and care so much about what goes into our kids' bodies. And so thank you. Thank you so much. And he was so nice, and we were just, chit-chatting a little bit about things like that. And he was asking me about my kids. And then he was so cool. He was like, do you want to take a picture? And I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I really do. And so we didn't get to get that picture until we were in the Oval Office, which made it even better, because you can't bring your phones or anything with you. So I was like, but that was really neat. And so then it was time, and they said, okay, we're entering into the Oval Office, and I just had to stay cool because everybody else there has, been there, and it's kind of like no big deal. Like literally everybody asked me, like they were talking to me and said something about like, oh, the Oval Office. And I was like, this is my first time in I had been in the White House for the women's luncheon, but like, this is my first time here in the Oval Office. And everybody's like, oh, like it was casual. And I'm like, no, this is very, very cool. I can't believe this. So, on the outside, I was poised and confident, right? I was going to represent the infertility community well, but in the inside, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So we walk in, and the Oval Office was just like, wow. So President Trump has added like all this gold to it. And they had told me that. They're like, wait till you see all the gold. And so there was a lot of gold. And then Congressman Richard, he was like, look at, this is like the original Constitution. And so it's like sitting there on the wall in a frame. And it has like these little blue curtains that close over it. And then there's just pictures of all the presidents all around and like busts of them. And it was just like, wow. And just looking at the desk and everything. And I was just kind of in awe. Even the ceiling has like this emblem, like this seal on top of it. And so I'm like trying not to stare at the ceiling and take it all in. And already there's cameras there, and there's different people that work in the White House, and there's some photographers and other people. And it was just very surreal. And so we kind of line up. They're like, okay, go line up on this wall. And there's a podium and then the president's desk. And so I go all the way to the far side, right? I'm like, here you have huge people speaking, like senators and Dr. Oz and all these people, and the EMD Serrano. And I'm like, I'm just going to stand to the side. And, I just was standing there, and this gentleman comes up. He's like, excuse me, ma'am, we'd like you to stand over here closer to the president's desk. And I was like, what? Okay, here I go. And it was just crazy. Like 2 down for me was the gentleman who is the head of the FDA. And I'm just like fly on the wall, listening to everyone talk. And it was just awesome. And so we're all standing there, and I'm taking it all in. And then they're like, okay, time to start. And the president walks in. And it's crazy, right? Like, I've seen President Trump on TV so much, or on social, but he's like really tall. And honestly, I can't say this enough. When he walks in the room, he puts everybody at ease. I was really kind of panicked, and I thought when he walked in, I was going to be so much more nervous. He was so kind. He walked in, he shook everybody's hand, he was complimenting everybody. He was talking about, this is such a great thing for our country, what a great day. And then he also walked through before the speeches and was giving compliments to different people, like, hey, I appreciate your hard work on this, or this is awesome that you did this. And so just so nice, and didn't walk right? He's the president. He could have just walked in and sat down and been like, I'm the president. But he was just joking around, and just everybody instantly was like, okay, wow. And I'm like, wow, what a cool guy. I know that's probably not the most professional thing to say about the president, but it's like, wow, he really was just so nice, and was just like, hey, thanks for coming. Appreciate this. It's going to be great. And I was yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's all I could say. I was like, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And so then we get started, and they were like, okay, let in the press. And so they're all waiting outside, which is where the Rose Garden is, which is now a patio. And so they all come in, and I was like, oh, wait, I thought the press and the cameras were already in here, because there was already some people. And so then it was just wild. There's probably, over 10 of us standing behind the president, and then the podium and his desk where he was at. And then in the background were people that worked at the White House. And then Carolyn Levitt walks in and sits down, and I'm like, oh, girl, you are a boss. I'm such a fan. And I'm like, don't fangirl, don't be stupid, don't look at don't make eye contact, don't do anything dumb. And so she walks in, and then it's a row of all of these cameras. I think there was 3 or 4 cameras and all these booms, and then there's some photographers standing, and then there's 5 or 6 photographers on the floor, and probably 15 of the press in the corner over here. And there's lights. And so it was just, the Oval Office is a big size office, but it's actually not as big as I thought. That was one thing I noticed about the White House. Obviously it was built a long time ago. So the stairwells are small, and the Oval Office is big, but it's also not huge. And there was a lot of people in there and a lot of lights. So it definitely got warm really quick. And so then we started, and the president got up and he gave his remarks. And then it started with Senator Katie Britt. And the whole time in my head, I'm taking notes. I'm listening to her, but I'm watching her because she's addressing the cameras and the press, but then she's turning towards the president. And I'm like, oh my gosh, during the speech, I should look at the president. Okay. I am so clammy. Thank gosh I had a suit coat on, because it's hot in there. I'm nervous. I'm sweating. And you also are realizing that as everybody's talking, there's cameras. Oh. And let me back up and say this. So I didn't know if this was going to be something pre-recorded or live or what it was going to be, until one of my girlfriends who was watching the news sends me a picture of the corner of the thing, and it says, announcement from the president in the Oval Office at 3 p.m. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is live. This isn't like a podcast where I could go, oh shoot, cut that part out, let me start again. And so I'm listening to everybody's speeches, and it's cool because as you're listening too, you're also learning, like, right? Like when Dr. Oz came up, he really was explaining what was about to, like, what they had just signed in, like what was the future for America now. And it was so exciting. And I just had this like huge smile on my face because I'm like thinking of all the couples who have submitted applications to the Bundle of Joy Fund that were like, finances are standing in my way. Finances are standing in my way. Finances are standing in my way. And I'm like, look at what they're doing to lower the cost so that there's more access to treatments. And so I was just so excited. And as the speakers kept going, I knew I was the last one. And I was like, okay. And of course, everybody's giving these beautiful, eloquent speeches, and they're just great talkers. And so as I knew my part was approaching, I literally was like, Jesus, I can't do this by myself. I'm so nervous. I want to do justice for everybody in the infertility community, and I want to, speak well. And I just really need your help. Like, I am going to need you to take over and help me with this right now, please. Because the other part is we had been standing for a good hour in heels, and it's not like you can really move. So my toes, my feet completely numb. I'm doing that little thing because I'm watching out of the corner of my eye the other women, and everybody's like slightly bending their knees, trying to get like some feeling back. And then I heard Dr. Heidi before me like say my name, and I knew I was up, and I was like, okay. And literally I got up there and I put my speech down, and I was like, okay, Jesus, here we go.
My husband, Kyle, and I battled infertility for over a decade before being blessed with our two beautiful children, Brexton, who's 10, and our daughter, Lennox, who's now 3. But our journey was long and painful. We faced 6 rounds of IVF, multiple miscarriages, multiple failed cycles, and countless moments of heartbreak. We faced the roller coaster of hope and devastation that so many families know all too well. Through it all, we held on to faith, each other, and the belief that somehow, someday, God would turn our pain into purpose. We also saw firsthand the staggering financial burden that comes with infertility treatments. Sitting in the waiting room of our fertility clinic, we overheard another couple quietly say that money was the only thing standing in their way of having their family. In that moment, Kyle and I looked at each other, and we knew God was planting a seed in our hearts, a calling to take action. In 2015, that calling became the Bundle of Joy Fund, a nonprofit foundation dedicated to providing financial assistance to couples struggling with infertility. What began as a small act of faith has now grown into something far greater than we could have ever imagined. To date, we've granted over $2 million directly to individuals, helping them pay for their IVF treatments, and we've celebrated the birth of 108 beautiful babies through our fund. Thank you. Each baby is a living, breathing testament to hope, community, and God's grace. For every tear we cried, for every shot we gave, every doctor's appointment that ended in disappointment, Kyle and I knew there had to be a greater reason. This was God's plan for us, to use our journey to advocate, empower, and be the voice to those battling in silence. Over the past 12 years, we've worked hard to raise awareness, erase stigma, and bring hope to the 1 in 6 couples that will face infertility. Infertility can be incredibly isolating. It can leave you questioning your faith, your body, and your future. But it can also reveal a strength that you never knew you had inside of you. It can deepen love, it can bring couples closer together, and it unites people through a shared struggle. Our goal has always been to show others that they are not alone, that there is a powerful community of infertility warriors behind them. Today, seeing President Trump acknowledge infertility on a national stage is profoundly moving. It's no longer a whispered conversation behind closed doors. It is a recognized, validated struggle that so many families have to endure. His leadership reminds us that those in positions of power can make real and lasting changes for generations to come. Their willingness to bring this issue forward shows that they not only hear our community, but they truly care about us. Thank you, Mr. President, and to your family for shining a light on infertility and for standing by couples like Kyle and I, for standing by couples who only want to hear the words mommy and daddy, who want to watch our children open their Christmas presents on Christmas morning, who want to see the world anew through the joy in their kids' eyes. Your acknowledgement honors the power of family, faith, and love, the very values that make America the greatest country in the world. It's proof that when promises are made and promises are kept, lives are changed forever. Thank you, Mr. President.
And it was funny, as I was giving my speech, I was hitting different things right. Like, I really wanted to emphasize, like, money was the thing standing in the way for so many couples that I've spoken to over the past decade. And I really wanted to say, like, yes, going through infertility is really hard, but it also strengthens you. And there was these just words that I had practiced, like, someday, somehow, God was going to use our pain. And, like, as I was hitting them, I was like, yes, I did it. Yes. And I was like, look up, look over here, look over here. And then I got to the end of my speech, and my friends Allie and Abby, they helped me at the end because they were like, make sure you thank the president, but also thank his family because they were instrumental in this as well. And then my friend Allie was like, you have to, like, use, like, embed some of their key words into your speech. And so it was like promises made, promises kept, and things like that. And so I was like, ooh, yes. And so, it was, I got to look at the president and, like, tell him, when people like himself, people in these positions of power, when they truly listen to what Americans are saying, that we are battling infertility, 1 in 6 of us, and that the price of treatments is so expensive, many people can't access those treatments. Like, they not only listened, they did something about it. I was trying, I'm like pretending he's right there again. I was like, sir, like, it shows us you truly care about us. And like, these changes that you're making, this isn't just a right now in the moment. Like, this is for generations to come. Just thinking about the fact that if Brexton or Lennox have to go through infertility like we did, like, they're not going to whisper about it. They're not, the access to care is going to be there. That stigma is gone. And so I was, like, trying not to cry. And then, man, when promises are made and promises are kept, lives are changed forever. In my head, like, I did one of those, like, yes, nailed it. I did it. But I just, like, smiled. But in my head, I was like, yeah. And then it was like out of body experience. And I just walked over and I, like, went to go shake his hand, but my paper was in this hand and his hand was out, like, and I knew it had to be this hand. And I panicked and I don't know what I did. Maybe I didn't have the paper in my hand. I don't know where my paper was. I don't really know. The whole thing was a blur. All I know is, like, I then was going to go in and hug him because I'm Italian. And I, like, did the lean forward and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think you're allowed to hug the president. And all I kept thinking is, like, Secret Service is going to be like, ma'am, don't touch the president. And so I did this weird arm grab thing. I don't know. I was so awkward, but I was just so excited and it was so cool. And he was so nice. And I also need to say this, like, not to bring in a negative Nancy, but a couple people had mentioned, and I don't even know why they'd be watching the show, but that Jimmy Kimmel posted some shit that he was like, oh, and the president was sleeping during it. No, Jimmy Kimmel, you weren't in the Oval Office. I was. And during my speech, as I was making direct eye contact with the president, and he was nodding and smiling and being so, like, he was listening and he was attentive and fully present, he was not nodding off during it. So you can take your BS elsewhere because you weren't in the room. So stop with your fake news. I was so mad at people like Jimmy Kimmel because I'm like, there are 1 in 6 couples battling this. This is such a monumental day for our community. And you're going to sit here and pretend that the president was nodding off to feed your BS narrative. Like, stop. Stop. Get up on your platform and say, there are couples out there, because I've spoken to them. There are couples out there busting their ass, saving every penny that they can to try to afford this treatment. And now the cost is going to be significantly lower. It is going to be so much more attainable for these couples. And literally, all you want to do is make up lies. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. So I definitely want to end on a positive note and a grateful note. I know that it was such an incredible honor to be able to represent the infertility community on a national platform. I hope that I did you guys justice with my speech. I tried so hard. I want you to know that these 13 years, I mean, obviously it's shaped who I am. I remember your stories. I hear your pain. And that's what kept pushing me forward, even through my own setbacks and heartbreaks. And I am just so proud and excited of what this administration is doing. I am so excited that people are going to be able to have coverage from their employers and not have to sit there and say, how are we going to pay for this? We're never going to be able to do this. Like, this is huge, you guys. This is life-changing for so many couples, and I can't wait. And when I said it in my speech, I literally meant every word of it. You know, we've gotten to do a lot of cool things in our life, Kyle and I, but nothing will even come close to having our kids. To when I said it in our speech, like the first time they say mommy or daddy, or just last night, like Lennox just wanted an extra cuddle before bed, and just holding her and stroking her hair, and just knowing how blessed I was to have my children. Or, man, the coolest thing was after I went to the White House and I went right to Oklahoma for Brexton's dirt race, and he did his race, and we're getting ready in the hotel for bed, and I'm brushing my teeth, and he comes up to me and he gives me this hug and he goes, Mom, I'm real proud of you. That was really cool. I'm literally going to cry again because I'm just so happy. I'm so happy that so many people are going to have those experiences, and they're going to get to be parents because of this. Sorry, guys. I need to get it together. It's just been a whirlwind. And I also want to say, since I'm already emotional, I might as well. For those of you that know my parents, I have the greatest parents ever. My dad, though, sometimes he's not always... You know, my mom's more the emotional one. She's the one with her words and all that. My dad's a dad, right? He's a man. He's more stoic. And my dad sent me a text that I got right after I left the White House. And he said, you're my hero. I'm so proud of everything that you've accomplished. And I'm just so very proud of you for that you're my daughter. And that meant a lot to me. So it was really cool. It was really an honor. And what else was really exciting is the amount of texts and DMs and emails that I got from people just saying, like, thank you as a mom who's gone through a miscarriage, as somebody who's, you know, experienced a failed cycle, as somebody still battling infertility, all these various setbacks that people are going through. And they were like, you know, thanks for being a voice. And so it just meant a lot to me. I mean, honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, that I got to be there and be a part of it. And all I can say, it was an honor. It was an honor to be able to represent the infertility community. And I'm so excited. So if you guys want a deeper dive into everything that the announcement was about in terms of the policy, I've linked it right here in the show notes for you. But I'm going to give you kind of a top line of what it is, because it is really good. So first of all, they are lowering the medication costs. So fertility meds like Gonal-F will now be available at a much lower price through TrumpRx.com, and it's going to save families up to $2,200 a cycle. That's huge. The amount that couples spend in medications has always been something that's like, okay, you get the cost for your IVF cycle, and then you have all these medications as well. So this is absolutely huge that they're lowering the cost of medication. Point two is there's going to be new fertility benefit options. So what that means is that employers can now have fertility options as a standalone coverage, just the same as they do for dental or vision. So that's really cool. I am so excited to know that employers are going to be able to offer this to their employees. This is amazing. They are also going to give more help to lower and middle class families. And so this means a lot because, as I had mentioned with the Bundle of Joy Fund, we have a lot of hardworking individuals that really choose jobs that pay lower but serve their community. And so they are going to get even deeper discounts. I want to say Dr. Oz said it was somewhere, he either said 115,000 or 150,000. If that is your family income, that you're going to get deeper discounts. But again, please go to the show notes. I'm not going to lie, as they were talking, like I said, there was a lot going on in my mind, so I don't want to misspeak in any certain ways. But they are going to qualify for even deeper discounts on fertility medications. And then there's going to be faster approval of affordable medications. So the FDA is speeding up the process for approving lower cost fertility drugs through the National Priority Review Voucher Program, helping them to reach patients even faster, which this means over time, the cost of IVF is going to keep going down. So this is just, it's incredible, you guys. Like, I know I keep saying unbelievable, incredible, astounding, but that's really what this is. Another thing that, as I had mentioned before, I know that they didn't talk about quite as much there, but that, again, fly on the wall, like over listening, is that they really, really want to do more research and dig into the root causes of infertility. There is something going on. I think it's very clear that so many men and women are struggling with their hormones, with a variety of different things that we see that are so common or prevalent now that decades ago weren't. And so that's what RFK and his team really want to look into, is like, what's going on and how do we start to reverse it now so that when our kids are having kids, this isn't an issue anymore. And so it's so cool that they're just really taking this like multifaceted approach. So that's the thing. And that's what I want to keep saying about this administration. They weren't just like, oh yeah, we campaigned on it. Okay, here's like a little something that we're just going to put out there to appease people, but it's not going to do anything. Like, this is real stuff, you guys. This is going to make a huge impact. And that's what's incredible. I can't wait. So what can you do now? First of all, keep an eye on your insurance and employer benefits. Ask about new fertility coverage options and check out TrumpRx.gov for medication discounts and updates as they roll out. So stay informed, ask questions, share your story, keep showing up. So what that means is go to your employer if you're comfortable and say, you know what? I've been battling infertility, or my sister has battled infertility, or my brother-in-law's company offers this coverage. Can we look into this? And explain to your employer why it's important. I saw a study one time, and sure, let's put it out there so that your employer sees the benefit to themselves. I saw a study one time that said women battling cancer and women battling infertility have the same stress levels because it really affects your mental health and it affects your body. So as an employer, do you really think you're going to get your best, most productive employee out there if they're trying to figure out, okay, well, if I'm working here 9 to 5, then from 5 to midnight, I need to have this side hustle to try to save, and I need to pick up more hours. They're going to be burnt out. They're going to be stressed. Do your employees a favor. Get the coverage. Help them be their best selves. It will help out your company in the long run. And so talk to your employers, bring it up. That's one huge thing that you can do. And as mentioned, keep checking the White House, keep checking TrumpRx.gov. This stuff is going to be rolling out constantly. It's going to be evolving for the better. So just stay informed, and you guys be excited. I also want to say this: whether you're battling in silence or you have shared your story, when we talk about this, when we go through this, I said it in my speech, we are united in a shared struggle. It is people like you that have made the difference. You've talked about it. You have shown people what it's like to battle infertility. You've put yourself out there. You've taken the stigma away from infertility. And you guys, collectively as a group, we got this on a national platform now. Think about that. For those of you who have been in the trenches for a long time, before social media was around, you know what it was like. It was isolating. It was depressing. It was embarrassing. You just felt less than. But you guys, we're not less than. We have a real medical condition. It has gotten real attention by our president and his administration, and real changes have been made. And I'm just so proud of everyone from the infertility community to President Trump and his administration. Thank you.